On today's episode of the Habitz Podcast, we've got certified ethical hacker Joe Burns from Reformed IT, who's going to be sharing with us some of his good habits when it comes to cybersecurity. Thanks for joining us, Joe. So what is it that qualifies you to be our guest expert when it comes to cybersecurity?
So I've been doing IT security since I was about 14. In fact, I got sent to the headmaster's office in school for hacking into the computers at school. So I've always been in that world ever since a young age. But I've since started and built IT and cybersecurity businesses. I've then sold a successful IT business. I've qualified a year or so ago on a certified ethical hacker. And so I've got a huge range of long-lasting experience and skills, and I'm basically helping businesses every week to keep hackers out of their organization and to find out how they're getting in the first place.
So you've seen from numerous business perspectives bad habits and good habits when it comes to cybersecurity?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So what are some of the things that you see that businesses get wrong and the bad habits that they follow when it comes to cybersecurity?
Mainly complacency and naivety. People think that it's not going to happen to them. I get this all the time. I go in and explain things that businesses should be doing to prevent hackers from getting into their network. And you give them a quote to do some work and they think, oh, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen to me. I'll never get hacked. And then the worst thing about that is you then get a call from those same businesses after they've had a breach and, you know, they've been ransomed, for example. We had one last week, actually. Business been ransomed, the hackers have got into their systems, they've asked for 10 Bitcoin, about 85,000. They've ended up negotiating to 50,000 and paid hackers £50,000 to get access to their data again. But they wouldn't spend, companies don't spend $5,000 to get the things in place to stop hackers getting in the first place.
So how do they get in then? Is that because I remember speaking to someone with regards to cybersecurity, and they said it's usually employees. It's like human error that's the easiest way for hackers to exploit. Is that?
Yeah, common methods of hackers getting in is human error. There's always somebody that lets the guard down. In a lot of cases, particularly this one recently, it's been that they make themselves too easy a target. Anybody can go online. There's a website called Shodan.io. On that site, you can literally type in businesses and type in IP addresses and almost get a clue and an indication as to how open a business is. And then because people have such bad passwords, then they just they do what's called a dictionary attack. So they'll target a business and just automatically send usernames and passwords until they get one that works. And that could take a while, but while they're sat there like sitting ducks, it doesn't matter. They're just eventually going to get in. And once they get in, that's when they do the damage and ask for payment.
So a bad habit there would simply be poor passwords.
Poor passwords, yeah, absolutely. So the other thing I recommend is to not use passwords at all. Go passwordless, essentially.
Oh, wow. So what other things have you seen that businesses get wrong, or individuals, employees, their behaviours that make it easier for people to get hacked or affect cybersecurity? So again, it's one of those, and you know quite a lot about this, too good to be true type things. People get emails and where it says, click this link and you'll get this. It frustrates me that people are still on social media sharing and liking posts because they could get this free motorhome that couldn't be given to the prize winner because she's 14. So like and comment and share, and you're in with a chance of winning this £200,000 motorhome. But it's like, clearly that's not going to be the case. I see, especially on LinkedIn, I see it on Instagram as well. There's a lot of posts asking you to name your favourite colour, place you were born, star sign, and I always think that must be a hacker's dream.
Absolutely, it's just gathering the information. If you can get people, the one thing with that like and share and comment type post is naivety and lack of awareness for the individual. It's almost a test. If I can get them to do this, then maybe I start targeting them because I can get them to do other things. So most of those things are just tests by hackers to try and work out how much they can push it and how stupid people are to like and share it in the first place.
It's a similar thing with the 419 emails so it's like the Nigerian scam where it's, I'm a prince, I've got 22 barrels full of money. They often leave typos and misspelt words in the subject line and in the email to you, because if you're clever enough to spot them and you realize it's a scam, so they are literally targeting almost those that are stupid, naive, or not aware. So that's really, really interesting. What are some of the good habits that you follow? That make you, sort of expert cybersecurity?
The very best thing anybody can do, really, in defense against this. So I always talk about how easy it is for me to steal somebody's password. I'm pretty much convinced I could steal anybody's password. And if I can get hold of somebody's username and password, then I can just type that in and I've got access to the systems, their email. Best thing you can do to prevent that is two-factor authentication. So you'll have seen this on plenty of other things. Apple make it compulsory now for logging in. It basically means that as well as a username and password, you need something else, maybe a phone or a code from somewhere or something, so that you can prove that it's you that's actually signing in. So that is what I would recommend.
That makes sense. I get that often on so many things now. So I need to confirm on my mobile whether it's myself trying to log into my own online banking. Yeah. So can businesses easily implement that?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I take it a step further, and I do something called passwordless logins. So that's to try and remove the need to use a password at all. And the reason that that's important, not using passwords, is, again, part of this is if somebody types in a password and they're in a public place, I could be watching them type the password in. So I could be recording it on my mobile phone as they type it in. I've stolen it that way. And that could even be done at long distances with Zoom cameras and things. The other thing is, if they're typing it into a webcam or a computer that they don't own, then the hacker could log the keys. They've stolen the password that way. So you can start to see that actually by the act of typing in a password is, in its own right, is a risk. So if I'm ever using my Microsoft 365 account, for example, which acts as a central control for everything that we do, when I put my username in, I don't actually type a password in. It just sends me a notification on my phone to match up a code against the screen. I press that and it logs me onto the system. I then link that to everything else using something called single sign-on. So once I've logged in and authenticated with that, it means I can get access to all my other systems through that one login authentication. So I'm not constantly typing passwords into different systems.
Yeah.
So one other thing that people should be aware of is the threat of things like USB devices. So there's a funny story, actually. In my last business, we had a security team, and we have these little devices called it's called a rubber ducky. Basically, it looks like a USB pen drive, but it's actually a keyboard. So when somebody plugs it in, it types in whatever we've told it to type in. So obviously, being good IT people, we can script things so that they happen really quickly. And we'd built this USB device so that when it's plugged in, it was automatically, within 7 seconds, stealing all passwords that were stored and saved in Google Chrome and Internet Explorer Edge, all of those browsers. Okay, it would steal all of the usernames and passwords and send them to our offsite server. Now, one weekend, one of my security guys lost his keys, and his rubber ducky device was attached to his keyring. And when he came back to the office on Monday, he said, "Oh, I've lost my keys, but my rubber ducky was attached to it." He said, "Oh, let's check the server and have a look, see if anyone plugged it in." Sure enough, some guy had found the keys, plugged in this USB device, and we'd literally stolen every username and password from his system, inadvertently, because he wasn't a target. But we then were able to locate the keys because we knew exactly who this guy was, because his email address and everything was all over it. So we could look him up, found him, gave him a call, and said, I think you've found some keys, haven't you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I did, but how did you know that?" It's like, "Oh, see that little USB device you plugged into your computer? That was actually ethical hacking with penetration testers, and we use that to steal information from prospective clients who are trying to test their security." And it was a bit of a rude awakening for him. And we obviously had to say, "You need to change all your passwords now, because they've all been divulged." So
would that be the same in work then? So if you've got employees that are taking a USB and plugging it into their computers in the office, that's a huge risk then to any business.
Yeah, and it's USB pen drives aren't really necessary anymore. You've got plenty of ways of sharing files between each other on the internet without having to transfer, the odd document on a USB pen drive. So yeah, it's to be really mindful. Things shouldn't be just found or picked up from somebody and plugged straight in. It is a risk to the business, and it's not. Antivirus can't even help in a lot of those cases because like I say with the rubber ducky, it's a keyboard. It's not a USB pen drive.
Yeah.
So the traditional antivirus doesn't scan it. It's just typing keys in like you would do if you were sat in front of the computer.
One thing I've always wondered about, and it's especially for people that are traveling, like field salespeople, or because everyone's on the move now, what about wireless networks and just randomly connecting to public networks?
Yeah, it's funny. I've got a tool. I have a full hacking kit, but one of the tools that I've got is called a Wi-Fi Pineapple. The idea behind this is if I'm at Starbucks, for example, and I'm targeting the people that are working from Starbucks, I can use this device to basically fool them into connecting to my Wi-Fi network rather than the real Starbucks network. And you get a pop-up or a portal screen when you connect to a lot of these public Wi-Fi in hotels and things like that. So I can basically present a portal, and I can ask them for to register, or I can ask them for a username and password for cloud or Premier Inn or Starbucks or whatever, and I can ask them for that information. And when they type that in, it's essentially being captured by me. And some people think, well, what's the problem with that? Even if somebody does capture a username and password for my cloud login, what are they going to do with that? But the thing is, most people use the same username and password for everything. So if I can get a username and password for one of the things you use, and then I try it on your Gmail account or your live account, and I get in, then all of a sudden I'm going to start password resetting everything that you've got. So it's quite quick and easy for a hacker with a little bit of information like that to take ownership of everything you've got.
So suppose that a good habit would be make sure you are connecting to the actual proper, authentic Wi-Fi or hotspot.
Yeah, or just use 4G. If you're in the UK and you've got 4G and you've got data, don't connect to it if you don't need to.
Yeah, and another one would be make sure if you are going to use passwords and you're not going to be, dual encrypted like you mentioned earlier, change your passwords for each thing.
Yeah, you have to have unique passwords for everything. And I do have some tips for that. But yeah, don't have the same password for more than one thing.
Thanks for coming into the Habitz Podcast studio today and sharing some of your good habits when it comes to cybersecurity. Where can people find you if they want to know more about how you can help their business?
Simplest way, you can Google Joe the Hacker, and you should find my contact details on my website from a security perspective. And also I run a business called Reformed IT, and that's at reformed-it.co.uk.
So thanks to Joe for joining us in the Habitz Podcast studio, sharing some of his good habits when it comes to cybersecurity. If you've got any tips or tricks you'd like to share when it comes to cybersecurity, let us know in the usual places, and join us next time for the More Habitz Podcast.